When you look at the world today, it can feel pretty chaotic. There's so much political turmoil, personal anxiety, just constant uncertainty. It makes you wonder, where can we possibly find a security that won't let us down? Well, today, we're going to dig into an ancient song, Psalm 2 in the Bible, to find an answer that's incredibly relevant right now, that true refuge is found in God's Son.
And this right here, this single promise, is where the whole psalm is heading. It's really the core message for us today. There's this profound blessing available to us, not because we earned it, but simply by taking refuge in Him.
But, to really appreciate the safety of a refuge, you kind of have to understand the storm first. And this psalm, it opens with this incredibly dramatic, almost cinematic picture of global conflict, a world that's in open rebellion against its own creator.
Now pay close attention to the language here. This isn't just random chaos. The psalmist is describing a very calculated, very organized opposition. We're talking about the most powerful people on earth, the kings and rulers, and they're all coming together for a single strategic purpose. So, what is this big unified plan of theirs? The text spells it out perfectly. They want to completely overthrow the authority of God and His chosen king, Jesus, who's called His anointed here. See, from their point of view, God's perfect and loving rule feels like chains and shackles, something they've got to break free from to have their own way.
Okay, so that's the view from Earth, a world in total coordinated rebellion. But how does heaven respond to all this? Well, the shift in perspective is absolutely dramatic.
While all the rulers on earth are plotting away so seriously, the psalmist tells us heaven's reaction is something totally different. It's not panic, it's not fear, it's laughter. It's this divine laugh that just completely exposes how pointless, how futile all their plans really are. And right after that laugh comes this clear, unshakable declaration. See, God isn't just amused, He is absolutely resolute. He's basically saying, your plotting is totally irrelevant. Why? Because I have already installed my king. The whole rebellion is over before it even gets started.
And what this all boils down to is a huge foundational truth, the sovereignty of God. It means His reign is absolute. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. It is the anchor for our souls when everything else feels like it's shaking. No human plot, no political mess, no global crisis can ever derail His ultimate plan. So this brings us to a really practical question, right? It's a big, high-level concept, for sure. But why does understanding God's absolute authority actually matter in our everyday lives? Because when you truly get this, really let it sink in, it changes everything. We can actually walk forward with trust, even when we can't see the path ahead. We're moved to submit our own will to His guidance, just knowing His way is better. And we find the freedom to finally let go, to surrender our deepest worries and our biggest ambitions into His incredibly capable hands.
So, if all this earthly power is basically pointless and God's plan is completely unstoppable, where does that leave us? Well, the psalmist doesn't just leave us hanging. It gives us a clear, divine invitation to a place of real safety.
The focus now shifts from the Father's authority to the Son's inheritance. God the Father declares that His Son Jesus has been given ultimate authority over everything. This isn't up for debate, it's a divine decree. The Son is the rightful heir and ruler of the whole universe.
Given the Son's absolute authority, the psalm issues this urgent warning directly to those rebellious rulers. Be wise. The only logical thing to do is submit. To kiss His Son was an ancient way of showing loyalty to a new king. It's a call to humbly honor His authority. And the alternative, as the text makes crystal clear, is destruction.
So what does it really mean to take refuge in the Son? It's not a passive, one-time thought. It's an active choice. Think of it like this. If a storm is raging, you have to make the conscious decision to run into the shelter. It's a daily choice to trust Jesus as our ultimate source of protection and hope, and to actively depend on Him and follow His lead.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why, but let's get practical. How do we actually do this? What does taking refuge look like on a busy Tuesday afternoon when life is just coming at you fast? Well, here's a super practical 4-step process. First, you just pause, stop for a second, and consciously ask God to guide your decisions. Then you surrender. You actively hand over your plans, your ambitions, your worries to His authority.
This leads to a daily commitment to trust Christ as your real Savior and refuge. And finally, you rely on Him through prayer, asking for the strength to depend on Him instead of just your own understanding.
You know, after all the drama, the rebellion, the declarations, the warnings, it all comes down to this one simple, powerful truth. If you remember one thing from all this, let it be this. True, lasting blessing isn't found in trying to control our lives, but in learning to trust and take refuge in God's Son.
And that really just leaves us with one final personal question to think about. As you go about your day, with all its challenges and all its uncertainties, it's worth asking yourself, in what or in whom am I truly seeking refuge today?